We shall never surrender. We shall fight on the beaches and in the streets.
Hitler's desire, which he specified in his book Mein Kampf in 1925, was the defeat of communism, which would involve a campaign against the Soviet Union. In pursuing this conquest, Hitler would acquire the Lebensraum of Eastern Europe that he so greatly desired. But he knew of the threat that lay in the West. Both Britain and France were military powers on the continent, and Germany could face a two-front war if it attacked the Soviet Union first. Therefore, Hitler decided to deal with Britain and France while there was still a non-aggression pact between Germany and the USSR. By late June 1940, Germany had successfully invaded and defeated France, which dealt a crushing blow to the Allied nations. Italy had now joined the war on side of the Axis, and Britain was now the only Allied nation remaining on the continent of Europe. Germany's sudden victory over France had granted them ports and airfields all along France's northeastern coast, and now, through these airfields, Hitler could launch his air battle for Britain. The German plan of attack was to blockade Britain. The Kriegsmarine, or German Navy, would undergo mining operations around Britain's ports, and the Luftwaffe, or German Air Force, would target British shipping in the English Channel. These convoys were vital to the survival of Britain, and they were extremely vulnerable to German air attacks being situated just miles off the French coast. The Luftwaffe would then target the RAF in order to establish air superiority. Once achieved, they would move on to other military and economic targets, while Operation Sea Lion, the land invasion of the United Kingdom, would then be played out, with the goal of defeating British forces as quickly and with as few casualties as possible. The battle officially began on June 10, 1940, when the Luftwaffe began targeting the convoys in the Channel. In doing this, the Luftwaffe also hoped to draw British fighters into the Channel, where they could overwhelm them in numbers. But the Royal Air Force, commanded by Lord Dowding, was reluctant to commit fighters to the security of the convoys, despite consistent demands from the Royal Navy. Instead, the RAF fighters chose to hunt German bombers that were targeting the Channel ports. Phase 2 was carried out the following month when Hitler made the directive to target British airfields in an effort to establish air superiority over the RAF. This included the whole aircraft industry, which ranged from aircraft and armaments factories to anti-aircraft batteries. The RAF had several advantages over the Luftwaffe. The combination of radar and the Dowding system turned the RAF into an extremely efficient unit. The system not only gave the RAF an early warning of incoming attacks, but also made the organisation of fighter squadrons very quick and efficient. The control room was capable of collecting large amounts of information and processing it in a short amount of time, distributing orders and information to the RAF instantaneously. With a plotting map of all UK airspace, they were able to coordinate the RAF to meet oncoming threats. Another advantage was that of flying over their own territory. Many fighter pilots were able to parachute to the ground and return to the fighting, whereas Luftwaffe pilots that successfully made it to the ground were taken captive. One disadvantage for the Luftwaffe was that it was not trained for long-range operations. Its tactics were based upon the concept of close air support for ground forces. They were therefore ill-suited for the circumstances of the new campaign. To add to this, German fighters were ordered to be escorts to German bombers. This restricted their performance, as they were often flying at slower speeds and had less freedom to hunt enemy fighters. As the battle stretched on, there became a severe shortage of experienced pilots on both sides. The RAF was producing around 200 pilots a week, but due to the quick pace of the fighting, their training was brief, and fully trained fighter pilots were needed for the decisive battle. Fortunately for Britain, many experienced pilots that had either fled from now occupied countries or had arrived from countries abroad played an active part in the fighter command. But even with these, the RAF still lacked trained fighter pilots. Around 500 foreign pilots took part in the Battle of Britain, and many of which scored some of the highest kills of the whole battle. Pilots came from 13 different nations, the majority of which came from Poland, New Zealand, Canada, and Czechoslovakia. Initially, both sides bombed military and industrial targets. Hitler had strictly ordered that civilian areas were not to be bombed, as this was to be for a last resort to speed up capitulation or for retaliation attacks. But both sides often missed their targets, killing civilians, and soon retaliatory attacks were made against both London and Berlin. On September 7th, Hitler removed his order to avoid civilian areas, and they became the primary target. This was Germany's biggest mistake, as it gave the RAF much needed breathing space, and from then on Britain's aircraft production exceeded its losses and the Luftwaffe never established air superiority. The German command reviewed the situation on September 17th. Due to the Luftwaffe's failure to establish air superiority, Operation Sea Lion was cancelled indefinitely. The bombing campaign, known as the Blitz, continued right into 1941, but the Battle of Britain officially ended on October 31st, 1940. German landing craft stationed in France dispersed, and Germany turned their efforts towards the invasion of the Soviet Union. Winston Churchill then gave his famous speech, "Never in the field of human conflict was so much owed by so many to so few," the few being the Allied airmen of the Royal Air Force. Because of the Luftwaffe's failure to establish air superiority over the RAF, Operation Sea Lion was cancelled. This in itself would have profound consequences for Nazi Germany, as the United Kingdom would be a launchpad for commando raids throughout the rest of the war, but more importantly it would be a launchpad for the Normandy landings in 1944. Germany would also partake in an economically draining bombing campaign with Great Britain and the United States that would last for much of the war. Over the course of the Battle of Britain, the RAF suffered nearly 2,000 casualties, and aircraft losses mounted to just over 1,650. The Luftwaffe lost almost 4,900 aircrew, and the aircraft losses came close to 2,000.